Did a video about this time 2 years ago about the return of CM Punk and the impending debut of Bryan Danielson to AEW, and Adam Cole was going to be there and the band was going to get back together and wrestling was going to hit a brand new boom period. Here we are 2 years later and the absolute worst case scenario happened. CM Punk was exactly who everybody remembered CM Punk to be. Bryan Danielson has probably spent more time on the shelf than actually inside the ring, and well, actually Adam Cole just ended up headlining the biggest wrestling show in company or maybe even professional wrestling history. So it's maybe not all that bad, but CM Punk, well, he has been one of the biggest disasters that AEW has ever brought under their umbrella. Now, for the record, I like AEW. I like it a hell of a lot, mostly because my favorite wrestler, I've been thinking about this a lot, okay? Right up there, close to the top. Like, I never thought that anybody would dethrone Stone Cold Steve Austin on my list, but Kenny Omega really does run right up against there. He's just so goddamn good in ring. But I haven't watched the product. I haven't watched the product at all since, the first Forbidden Door in 2022. I had full intentions of watching the 2023 version of the show. I was just, I think I was busy. I was probably streaming or something like that. Really, realistically, it doesn't much matter. But all of those ideas and so many other wrestling commentators were also talking about this brand new boom period. CM Punk is back. Bryan Danielson is going to shift the momentum and AEW is going to be on the rise. Oh my God, they're going to have all of these magical shows and all this hype surrounding them, and well, it just didn't end up happening. CM Punk was just that same prima donna that left the business in 2014, started beefing with people backstage, causing fights, leaving for the better part of a year only to return on a separate show where he wouldn't mix up with any of the people that he got into a fight with beforehand, but still couldn't even go a couple of months. He hasn't even been back, a quarter of the year. I forget when Collision started up. But he's only been back since, June or July when that show debuted? And he's already been in a handful of backstage altercations, and now, apparently, he's been getting into some physical altercations in front of the boss with some of the young kids and then with a couple of the veterans as well. It's like, yeah, people like CM Punk. Yeah, people remember him from his ROH days and during his run in the Fed, but is he worth all the headache? I was never a fan. I was super hyped when he was coming back because I wanted to see the business take off again. And you know what? Hey, you can take a look at the ratings across the board for as many people who are going to try to tell you that, WWE is really hot right now. What is 1.5 million people on a Monday and maybe touching 2 on Friday? Does that really equate to barn-burning business? Or, AEW's ratings outside of the All-In phenomenon that just took place in London? It was their first European show, their first stadium show, and yeah, 81,000 people turned out to that, or at least paid tickets for it. That is a fantastic turnout. But you take a look at their week in, week out business, it's not that great, man. It really isn't. For as much as I want it to be, when was the last time that Dynamite got 1 million viewers on Wednesday? When was the last time that Rampage or Collision topped 500,000? I'll wait. It's just not happening, man. Nobody's coming back to professional wrestling. Perhaps it's one of those anachronisms from a time that's gone by and everybody's just moved the fuck on. MMA came in, ate their lunch. They couldn't adapt. Sucks to suck. I love wrestling. I grew up on wrestling. It is one of my most fondest childhood memories. I tried to dip my toe back in a few years ago. Didn't like the product that was there. That was during Roman Reigns' nuclear push where it was just going to be the big dog no matter what. And now even that he's on the top of the game running that stupid years-long storyline, I couldn't give less of a fuck. I still pay attention to what's going on at AEW, but man, it's real tough. It's real tough whenever CM Punk has to come out and make his fucking political statements by wearing an abortion is human right or is healthcare t-shirt or holding up protect trans kids signs. Like, he's outraging SJW, and you could overlook that if the in the ring stuff was totally fine and if he was getting along with people behind the scenes. But no, that's just clearly not the case. He's been hurt, he's been getting into fights, and now he's suspended going into a pay-per-view on Saturday in his own hometown in Chicago, once again, at the place that brought him back and then re-debuted him at the fucking Chicago Bulls United Center, for Christ's sakes. The guy who Tony Khan spent all of this money, jumped through all of these hoops for, just continues to flout his status and exert his pride over the company. Like, what the fuck do you do with this? Tony Khan was on such a run, man. He was on a run all the way up to and including the Hangman Adam Page situation, which was probably the first time that, CM Punk ended up really just rubbing people the wrong way. Yeah, throwback to Adam Page. Yeah, was doing while CM Punk called him out unscripted live on Dynamite. Yeah, knowing that the guy wasn't there at the show, wasn't called in for the taping or anything like that. He had family stuff or something like that. I think back at the time you could fact check me on that or something like that. But he decides to call him out. This is, I've got the championship belt. You come out here, you could go ahead and fight me. AEW's really gay when it comes to using, footage from their show even for review. But there he is calling him out when he goddamn well knows that he's not at the show. Just once again showing you he's just trying to pick a fight. He's just a backstage prick. And yeah, going into the show, he had already gotten into a backstage scuffle, what was reported, with Jack Perry a couple of weeks ago as well, over a couple of things as well. Jack Perry is one of the young and up-and-coming kids, if you don't watch the show or anything like that. Not quite a star yet, but he's eventually finding his footing. He's Joe Perry? Is that the guy from 90210? That's his kid, and he's a pretty talented professional wrestler, but he's also, still in his early to mid-20s. Like, the kid's still trying to find his footing. And now he's getting hassled by this two-time UFC loser. Like, the fuck is going on here? But let's take a look, okay? As expected, more details have continued to emerge regarding the latest CM Punk controversy, stemming from last Sunday's All-In in London's Wembley Stadium, when Punk and Jungle Boy Jack Perry got into a physical altercation backstage. The following comes from Brian Alvarez, Tuesday's edition of Wrestling Observer Live. So yeah, there's a multitude of people corroborating and then maybe also throwing shade on the story as well. So the Punk-Perry skirmish shortly after Punk versus Samoa Joe match to kick off the pay-per-view. So that led off the pay-per-view. It still did go forward as planned, but it almost didn't. Check this out. A story emerged that Punk and Perry had gotten into an altercation of some kind behind the stage. Yeah, I heard that as well. It's like, oh my fucking god. There's a show that's bigger than your fucking ego, Punk. Let it go. Let it fucking go. Prior to Punk going out for his match, Perry had already wrestled on the pre-show against Hook and made a comment about real glass, Crimea River. Yeah, to the camera during a match when they were fighting on and around a car. Comment was in reference to a story that emerged recently about a spot Perry wanted to do with real glass on Collision that Punk nixed for several reported reasons. Yeah, heard about that story. It's like, okay, I thought it was that Perry didn't want to use real glass, but then I can't remember. Did Perry and Punk have a match, or was Punk wanting to use glass later in the show, or was he just trying to big dog him at the time and then just try to test him? And then Jack ended up seeing the reports of this stuff, just like, yeah, guess what? We got real glass this time around. So he went out there, worked his match, and went back through the curtain. And then, like it says here, he's getting stitched up and all this stuff. Alvarez said it was described to him that Perry was backstage Sunday having cuts worked on. Yeah, after getting dropped onto a windshield. It was a car after all. Pretty cool, huh? Wrestling's awesome, okay? I like wrestling. The spot sounds fantastic, but getting dropped on the car's windshield during the match when Punk walked over to him. It's like he's getting attended to. You got a fucking match to do here in a second, my guy. What the fuck are you doing? Walked over to him to ask if Perry had a problem with him. Oh my god, fucking put it in your back pocket, you bitch. Perry said something to the effect of, well, you heard what I said out there, according to several people. Punk said something to the effect of, I could beat your ass, right? And it's like, no, I don't know that. You couldn't beat anybody's ass, so why don't you fuck right off, old man? This was a quick incident, and nearly 100% of the people Alvarez spoke with say Punk made the comment and either shoved or pie-faced Perry, then put him in a guillotine headlock. Somebody who was also backstage, apparently, at this point in time, didn't want to corroborate that story, and is in fact saying that is fake and untrue, is Miro, the former Rusev in WWE. He's disputing that part, but this isn't the last time they're going to be hearing about Miro, so. It was immediately broken up soon after. They got close enough to Tony Khan, who was at the gorilla position, that monitors were apparently knocked down onto Khan. Alvarez said, unlike the brawl following All Out, where that was against Kenny Omega, oh my god, the Young Bucks, who else was there? Christopher Daniels, Ace Steel on Punk's side. They walked. It's just a bunch of year-old crap at this point in time that led to the lengthy suspension that Punk was on, or him also getting his tricep worked on and then just doing bitch shit behind behind the scenes just going, I'm quitting, I'm gonna go somewhere else. Just shut the fuck up. Stop being a fucking baby. Take responsibility for your actions and grow the fuck up. I've got immense respect for the Bucks and Omega for starting this fucking company to begin with. They could have took the easy road. They could have went over to the Fed, signed big luxurious contracts, and this entire show never would have been possible at all. But no, the CM Punk is still, even in his return promo, talking about soft wrestlers and still taking digs at them. Did you see the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega take shots back? No, absolutely not, because guess what? They're grown-ups. Wow, imagine that. They don't have the ego as fragile as the glass that Punk didn't want to work with. But also, I don't know if this is referenced here in this article, but I was also reading something else as well, that the animosity that Punk has towards Jack Perry has a lot to do with Jack Perry being good friends with the Bucks. Interesting. And there's also another video that I want to do specifically on the Bucks, or I did at the time, probably when it was more relevant, but they have really healthy relationships with their wives, and that's another reason that probably Cody and his goofy-ass wife probably went back to the Fed. But like I said, unless that story heats up, and it's like we can just go ahead and put that on the back burner. And Kenny Omega for always wearing a Redcon 1 shirt and just about every outside of AEW interview also lets me know that he's also probably secretly based. And given the fact that CM Punk, such a raging liberal cuck, yeah, there's going to be a lot of headbutting right there from one side only, it sure seems like. Alvarez said the Punk was furious about the situation. Of course he was, because this guy, he has no emotional control, but he's one of the big adults. He's the big star. Fuck off. And several people said that he threatened to quit. Just like a fucking bitch. Oh my God. Right in front of a big show. You're supposed to kick off the show, and then all of a sudden, I'm gonna quit because Jack Perry, he didn't capitulate to me bitching at him. You better check your boy, Tony. Fuck off. Alvarez said that he heard, and didn't want to go out for his match against Samoa Joe. Samoa fucking Joe, okay? Like, that's another guy who's right there on my short list of favorite workers ever. Like, Samoa Joe is a badass. Alvarez said that he heard that resulted in AEW personnel going to FTR and the Young Bucks about opening the show, but they weren't ready to do so. Yeah, it was like they had a big, long, elaborate match that they were trying to work on. And because FTR are friends with just about everybody backstage, that seems to be the popular idea. But then also pretty tight with CM Punk as well. Just go to him. It's like, can you either go check your boy or can you guys go on first? It's like, we kind of got to work everything out. And given the fact that we're one of the most highly anticipated matches on the show, we're gonna stay in our spot. Okay, great. And but they weren't ready to go or do so. AEW then went to the participants for the Golden Elite, which had Kenny Omega in it as well, and the Bullet Club Gold, Konosuke Takeshita trios bout, and said that they could go on and they could do it if needed. I think they ended up going second or third or something like that, so yeah, it wouldn't be that much of a bump anyways. But yeah, it just goes to show you who's a team player and who's a fucking crybaby. But he's famous though. Alvarez said that he was told that Samoa Joe was furious. And yeah, if Samoa Joe is furious and looking for you backstage, you're probably gonna go ahead and fall into his frame, because that's a big, angry fucking veteran. And yeah, you're gonna do what the fuck he says. And apparently talked Punk into doing the match. Or otherwise we get this match started backstage, and it would just probably end up going less like your professional wrestling career and more like your UFC career. And now, what do we got? Miro right here? Well, like I said, put a pin in that stuff. We're going to run it back. Afterward, there was apparently another near incident when Punk came through the curtain. So after the match had finished and all that stuff, he had hot dogged and grandstanded and shouted out during his match. I seen a couple of clips and all that stuff, and yeah, I read a rundown of the show because I was looking forward to it. I wasn't going to watch it or bite or anything like that. I might catch, the show with Captain Jack Sparrow here in the next few days, but that's neither here nor there. But seen a couple of spots that were done, and yeah, the CM Punk could just, trying to get the heat up because everybody was obviously going to cheer for Joe because he's an eminently likable guy, and CM Punk, well, is CM Punk, so he was going to get a mixed reaction at best, and then at worst, he was just going to have to play the outright heel, so he decided to delve into it, and like I said, not taking anything away from his professional wrestling skills, like the guy's a fucking wizard on the mic, and he's still serviceable in the ring. He played up his heel status by doing shout outs to Hulk Hogan, which, I don't take any offense to, but then also John Cena, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, oh you guys don't like WWE, right? And it's like, no, we like professional wrestling, regardless of whatever company it comes in. It just so happens that this is the one that's here, and you guys put together a pretty good card, so shout out to that. So again, it's just Punk being fragile. And then Hulk Hogan, who he's also taken shots at beforehand. This is Punk, by the way, because again, there is nobody on the face of this earth that this guy can't take fucking offense to. Punk asked, Miro went up to Punk and asked about what happened with Perry. So again, he was either backstage, that was corroborated by a bunch of people, but then also Miro says that's not what happened. So clearly, he must have been backstage or something like that, caught up in the scuttlebutt. Maybe he walked in afterwards and going, what the fuck is going on here? And just checked out the match from behind the scenes. He wasn't booked for the show, but he was still in the area. Punk then asked if he had a problem with him now, which resulted in an argument. Again, getting in fucking fights with everybody. What the hell is wrong with you? Punk asked if Miro wanted to step outside, but the situation didn't escalate into anything, and Punk headed to the trainer's room. Yeah, exactly, because Miro, he's built just like Samoa Joe, okay? He's just probably about a decade younger than him and definitely has previous combat experience in his home country of Belarus. So if Punk was going to step up to him, a 40-something-year-old stepping up to a mid-30s guy who could absolutely break you into bits, where's all that bravado right there when you aren't picking on somebody that's smaller than you? Where's that same energy, my guy? After the report Tuesday, Nick Houseman and PW Insider had denials that the altercation happened. But yeah, still some other people were also talking about that as well. So that may or may not have happened. Don't know about that at all. But yeah, WrestleOff said that was going to end up happening, but they're also citing Brian Alvarez, so that could just be one of those echo chamber things where somebody just says something into the void and then it just bounces around for a minute. But yeah, it's funny. Punk wanted to fight Jack Perry. That's right there. A little guy. I think he's something like, he might be 5'10", but he's definitely shorter than that. Punk probably has about 20 to 30 pounds on him and some actual combat experience. But when Miro theoretically steps to him, you don't want to take on the big guy in the short shorts right there? Where's that same energy, my guy? But yeah, per Dave Meltzer, Punk and Perry are suspended for All Out, which is this Saturday. Another pay-per-view taking place in Chicago. Interesting. Pending the results of an investigation into the matter, it is possible that both men will work Sundays All Out. Yeah, Punk would more than likely be booked for the show, given the fact that he is the real world champion, the storyline that he's doing out there. Obviously, you've seen the belt and all that shit. He's running with that right now. Nobody's beat me for this belt. Well, it's mostly because, bitch, you've been fucking suspended the entire time that you're in the company. 50% of Punk's entire AEW run, the 2 years that he's been in the company, has been taken up by either injuries or suspensions. He's an old man, he's a bitter man, and he's an unpalatable man. It's really turning out to be the case. Alvarez was told Wednesday that Warner Brothers Discovery side were told that Punk was indeed suspended and off Sunday's pay-per-view. Yeah, which we don't really know much about the card that's supposed to be, again, kind of played it close to the vest what the ultimate card was going to be for your show in Wembley, your big stadium show, and now you're doing the exact same stuff once again with another pay-per-view. You're treading a fine line right there, and this is definitely some late-stage WCW stuff, and I like AEW, by the way, but you got to announce the cards in order to expect people turning out. But yeah, about this glass spawn, regarding the aforementioned glass spawn, Alvarez said that according to Perry's side of the things, it was approved by AEW when he was at a Dynamite episode to the point that he rented a car and a spot for it. Okay, according to Perry's side, Punk said no because Perry's friendship with the Young Bucks. See, right there. What a fucking, there's stronger words that I'd like to say, but you know what, I want to keep this, or at least have the potentiality of this being monetized. Alvarez said that the argument about the glass spot was known within the company for weeks prior to when it first came out. Alvarez again told the story he had heard about Perry having a vacation planned that he wasn't trying to get out of working the next week, as had been reported, was the feeling from Punk. He had paid time off, and what Punk wanted to call in somebody, you're on vacation. Meanwhile, this bitch out here just decided to storm out of the WWE at the same time. I'm getting married. Oh, WWE fired me when I was on, they sent the papers over on the day of my wedding. The audacity. It's like, bitch, you storm out. Who the fuck knows what you're even doing? And yeah, London travel woes. So again, another thing on top of this. It's like this fucking diva right here, man. How much can you actually put up when it comes to star power? It's like fucking a really attractive chick. Okay, she's going to come with a hell of a lot of problems. How much do you like fucking with her as opposed to how much do you just put up with her bullshit, okay? This is exactly what's going on right here. Story emerged on Monday that Punk found himself without no AEW provided transportation when he arrived in London on Saturday morning, which I kind of find very, very dubious, but okay. And that he called a driver that was supposed to be there and the number didn't work. He eventually took the tube on the train to get assistance from some fans to find out where he was going, as supported by some of the pictures that are on Reddit. And then also I ended up finding a picture that's there as well. And of course, if that's what your average CM Punk fan looks like, I'm not surprised by his actions. No shade to that guy. He just looks like somebody who would be on Reddit, and then also somebody who would be a CM Punk fan. Alvarez said the two versions of the story as well. One with Punk arrived and couldn't get a hold of anybody and decided to take the train. And the other version is that he did get in touch with somebody, and either they asked or offered to take the train. He was fine with it, and once he was on the train, he got lost. Exactly, man, because London is an old-ass city with old-ass infrastructure and all that shit. Very easy to get lost and very dangerous to get lost, especially for somebody as lippy as Phil. It's unknown why he didn't take a cab or an Uber, but yeah, everybody was saying it was probably a busy place because an additional 81,000 people turned up. Okay, it was going to be really fucking busy, and especially on a weekend in London, it was going to be a trip. So yeah, I have no idea. I'm going to be paying attention to the situation, but then at the same time, man, it's like we kind of anticipate Punk's going to get some, he's going to get some easy treatment because All Out in Chicago, they're going to need him to move tickets. He's probably going to be on a bunch of shows. And I'd imagine probably at the same time, Perry's probably not going to get suspended. And it's not like he's in any storylines right now, but he could get thrown into some multi-man or something like that. Continue a storyline, start a new storyline or something like that. I wish him nothing but the best because it really just sounded like he was standing up for himself and somebody was trying to play the bully. And then when you get the additional context of either Miro or Joe, maybe both ended up stepping up to him and him cowering like the little bitch that he is, makes a whole lot of sense. So here we are, 2 out of the 3 years apparently he signed a 3-year deal. He spent 50%. He spent an entire year on the shelf. And what does he have to show for? Has the needle moved, Punk? We don't really know. Actually, we do. He hasn't moved the needle. All he's done is sowed backstage drama, gave AEW a bit of a black cloud hanging over its head. And the only reason that the company doesn't wear this situation like an anchor is because there's so many other incredible talents that are out there right now doing the best in spite of his nonsense. Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, the Bucks, FDR, his friends can even rise above this shitty situation and overperform for everybody. But yeah, man, I'll be paying attention to this stuff. Don't know if I'll do a dedicated video on it or not. It's just one of those things where it's like I was really excited a couple of years ago, and here we are just going, Punk is exactly who we thought he was. Jesus Christ. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.